Imagine waking up every morning knowing that every wall around you was built to make escape impossible. Steel bars, armed guards, watchtowers, searchlights, dogs, and walls so thick that no ordinary person could ever hope to break through them. Yet throughout history, a handful of prisoners achieved what millions believed could never be done. Some dug tunnels beneath massive prisons. Some fooled entire armies with nothing but intelligence and patience. Others vanished so completely that no one knows whether they survived or died trying. Today we're counting down the greatest prison escapes in history, stories so unbelievable that they sound like Hollywood movies, yet every one of them really happened. Let's begin with one of the most daring escapes ever attempted. High above the forests of Germany stood Colditz Castle. During World War II, it wasn't just another prison, it was the prison. The Nazis sent only their most determined escape artists there. Men who had already escaped from other camps or tried again and again. If anyone couldn't be contained anywhere else, they were sent to Colditz. The castle sat on a rocky hill, its walls stretched high into the sky. Armed guards watched every entrance. Machine gun positions overlooked the surrounding land. To the Nazis, escape from Colditz was impossible. But the prisoners saw something different. Opportunity. Instead of giving up, officers from Britain, France, Poland, and the Netherlands secretly worked together. Every day they studied guard routines. Every night they whispered new ideas. They built hidden workshops inside the prison. Bed sheets became ropes. Wood scraps became tools. Even ordinary furniture was carefully dismantled and reused without attracting suspicion. One team secretly dug tunnels beneath the castle. Another forged official documents. Others created fake military uniforms using stolen cloth and handmade buttons. Perhaps the most incredible project of all was a secret glider. Hidden inside the castle attic, prisoners quietly built a two-man aircraft from stolen wood, floorboards, and cloth. If Germany ever began losing the war and security collapsed, they planned to launch it from the roof and fly to freedom. Although the glider was never used, dozens of prisoners escaped Colditz through tunnels, disguises, and carefully planned operations. The castle that was designed to hold history's greatest escape artists became famous for proving that determination could overcome even the strongest prison walls. But our next story would take place on an island surrounded by freezing water, a prison that millions believed no one could ever escape alive. Imagine standing on a tiny island. The ocean is freezing. The currents are powerful enough to drag expert swimmers away. Armed guards patrol every corner. Escape seems impossible. For decades, people believed this prison was completely escape-proof. Then, 3 ordinary inmates quietly began preparing one of the greatest mysteries in criminal history, using homemade tools, paper, soap, and unbelievable patience. They would attempt an escape that still fascinates the world today. Their destination was one of the most feared prisons ever built, Alcatraz. June 1962. Far out in the cold waters of San Francisco Bay stood the most feared prison in America, Alcatraz. For nearly 30 years, it had earned one terrifying reputation: the prison nobody could escape. The icy water surrounding the island rarely rose above 12 degrees Celsius. Powerful currents swept toward the Pacific Ocean, and even experienced swimmers struggled to survive for long. Sharks weren't the real danger. The freezing water and relentless tides were. Every inmate knew the odds. No successful escape had ever been officially recorded. But 3 prisoners believed the impossible was only a challenge waiting to be solved. Their names were Frank Morris, John Anglin, and Clarence Anglin. Unlike most inmates, they didn't rush. They observed. They waited. For months, they carefully studied every guard routine, every inspection, every shift change, and every blind spot inside the prison. Behind the air vents in their tiny cells, the concrete had slowly weakened because of years of moisture. Using nothing more than homemade spoons, sharpened metal scraps, and a makeshift drill built from a stolen vacuum cleaner motor, they quietly chipped away at the wall. Every night, while guards walked the corridors, the prisoners covered the sound by playing music during the prison's approved recreation hour. The work was painfully slow, one small piece of concrete at a time, one handful of dust hidden at a time, one silent night after another. Eventually, each prisoner created a hole large enough to crawl through. Behind the cells was a narrow maintenance corridor that guards rarely entered. That hidden space became their secret workshop. There they built one of the most remarkable survival devices ever created inside a prison. More than 50 stolen raincoats were carefully stitched together into a waterproof inflatable raft. Using homemade wooden paddles, glue stolen from the prison workshop, and incredible patience, they prepared for the journey across the freezing bay. But they still had one final problem: morning head counts. If guards discovered their empty beds before sunrise, the entire prison would lock down within minutes. So the prisoners built fake heads. Using soap, toilet paper, concrete dust, and real human hair collected from the prison barber, they sculpted realistic faces. From a distance, the sleeping prisoners looked completely real. On the night of June 11, 1962, they placed the fake heads on their pillows, climbed through the holes behind their cells, crossed the maintenance corridor, reached the roof, slid down a prison pipe, crossed the prison yard, and disappeared into the darkness. By the time the guards realized the beds were empty, the escapees were already gone. The prison launched one of the largest manhunts in American history. Helicopters searched the bay. Boats scanned the coastline. The FBI investigated for years. Pieces of the homemade raft were eventually discovered floating in the water, but the three men themselves were never officially found. Did they drown in the freezing currents, or did they successfully reach the mainland and disappear forever? More than 60 years later, no one knows the complete truth. The Alcatraz escape remains one of history's greatest unsolved prison mysteries. If escaping America's most secure prison sounded impossible, the next story was even more unbelievable. It wouldn't happen inside a prison. It would happen inside a heavily guarded Soviet labor camp, where escape wasn't just difficult, it was almost a death sentence. The prisoners faced frozen forests, endless snow, starvation, wild animals, and thousands of kilometers of hostile territory. Most people never even attempted to run, but one small group decided they would rather risk certain death in the wilderness than spend another day behind the barbed wire. Their journey would become one of the most extraordinary escape stories ever told. By the early 1980s, Maze Prison in Northern Ireland had become one of the most heavily guarded prisons in Europe. Its towering fences, reinforced walls, electronic surveillance, and armed guards made escape seem almost impossible. Many believed no one would ever break out. But inside the prison, 38 inmates were quietly preparing one of the largest prison escapes in modern history. Unlike dramatic Hollywood movies, their greatest weapon wasn't force. It was patience. For months, they carefully studied every routine. They memorized guard movements. They learned exactly when doors opened, when food arrived, and how long each inspection lasted. Bit by bit, they secretly smuggled weapons into the prison. Every step of the plan depended on perfect timing. There could be no mistakes. On September 25, 1983, the operation began. The prisoners quickly overpowered several prison officers and seized control of part of the prison. Using stolen uniforms, prison vehicles, and complete confusion, they reached the main gate. Within minutes, 38 prisoners escaped. It became the largest prison escape in British history. Authorities launched a massive search involving thousands of police officers and soldiers. Many escapees were captured in the following days and weeks. Others remained hidden for years. The escape shocked governments around the world. It proved that even the strongest security systems could fail when faced with careful planning and determination. Although these escapes happened in different countries, different decades, and under completely different circumstances, they all shared one powerful lesson. None of these prisoners escaped because they were stronger than the guards. They escaped because they thought differently. They observed. They adapted. They waited, sometimes for months, sometimes for years. Every small detail mattered. A loose brick, a forgotten tunnel, a predictable routine, a single mistake by the guards. History shows that even the most secure prisons are designed by humans, and anything designed by humans can have weaknesses. From the secret tunnels beneath Colditz Castle, to the mysterious disappearance from Alcatraz, to the record-breaking breakout at Maze Prison. These stories continue to fascinate millions because they challenge something we all believe, that some places are truly impossible to escape. Whether every escape succeeded or not is still debated by historians. But one fact is beyond dispute. These men attempted what almost everyone else considered impossible. Their stories became part of history, not because they were prisoners, but because they dared to test the limits of human determination. So the next time someone tells you that something is impossible, remember these incredible escapes, because history has a habit of proving that impossible is sometimes just a word. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this documentary, don't forget to like the video, subscribe for more incredible stories from history, and let us know in the comments, which prison escape do you think was the most unbelievable?